Good morning. Welcome to this week's Norma's Talks. I'll have a confession to make is that up until approximately half an hour ago, I had no idea what I was going to talk about today. Usually the idea comes in what topic to look at, what topic to talk about, how to, what to do, etc. And I was blank. And so I sat down with my tarot cards and said, what do I talk about today? And I put out some symbols, which I will show you as we go along, and it told me a story. So today I'm telling you a story that the tarot has given me this morning so that I may share it with you. And it starts like this, which is, I just want to make sure I get this right visual here. This is the Page of Cups. To me, this is always a surprise that comes into the life and takes your attention. So what does life bring us? Many different things. Some surprises are great surprises and we rejoice and we're very happy. But a lot of surprises aren't so good. And that's the one that I will talk a little bit more about because this symbol comes up a lot in people's readings. So I want to explain a little bit more. This is about being overwhelmed, not knowing quite what to do. Now, this can come in many ways. That one more from that last symbol, one more thing that comes in that you have to take care of. That one more thing that's added to the list that needs to be done today. This is overwhelm, but it's also depression. Because look at the background. This is when you don't feel like getting up out. I have to hold it up a little higher, sorry. This is when you don't feel like getting up out of bed. This is when it just seems to be too much. And with all our isolation and all the things that have been happening, very often it's almost like anything is one too much because I even feel it sometimes, the tension of not just being able to go where I'm a bit of a traveler. I love to travel. And all of a sudden I feel like I just can't go where I want to go or do what I want to do. And I know I'm a small drop of the representation of people that feel like that. What about when something comes in and you're absolutely just don't know what you're going to do, how you're going to handle it? Now, one of the things, because as I said, this comes up in a lot of readings, but I want to draw your attention to this bedspread here. That bedspread has the red roses of desire. And I'm just trying, I go look at it myself. Oh, right, and astrological symbols. So it's acknowledge with desire. But the key here, mostly what I'm recommending for about, I'm putting this down because you've got should be able to know in your head. Also, these swords up there. Swords are problems and issues. And what I advise my clients when they like that, because what we tend to do as humans, we take on the biggest, heaviest thing. And so what happens is we don't build in a success story. Because the biggest and the heaviest thing, thinking if we clear that, then everything will be all right, is usually not the way to go as far as I'm concerned, or it hasn't worked in my life when I've had these situations come along. What you do is you pick the easiest thing and you take care of it. That could be sweeping the floor, which is what I'm going to be doing after I'm finished here today. It could be doing the dishes. It could be making that one phone call that you really don't want to maybe make, the smallest thing. When you get that out of the way, then you can tackle the next biggest thing and so on and so on. So until finally that plate, that depression that continues is gone. But the key here, and that's one reason with the red roses of desire, is the need for action. And I'm going to say why, because of the next symbol that came up. Because if you do not do the action, you end up feeling like this. Now, this is the Five of Pentacles, where we have two people, obviously not of great means, and one's even got a crutch to help walk. It looks like a peg leg, actually, as well. Out in the snow, church window behind with 5 pentacles. Now, how do we get from the snow to being inside? Sometimes it is a mental element that we have of restriction. We don't feel we belong. We don't feel that we deserve it. We don't feel that it's for us. Because when we're in the midst of the last symbol, the depression, the feeling like we can't do all this, that can continue even though we may be doing and being, but we haven't got the correct mindset. Now I'm going to put this down before we move on, because I want to talk a little bit about my last statement, the correct mindset. What on earth is the correct mindset? Those words came out of my mouth. They weren't planned. And it is really about recognizing how important how our thoughts are. If we feel that we don't deserve it, our thoughts will reflect that. And I know this because of all the transformation work I do. And I so often, very successful people, very successful, often very cerebral people, not really in touch with their feelings, wondering why things are not quite the way they want them. But underneath is that unworthiness, so that we go and we do as much to prove to the world that really we are deserving and we need to have, and etc. I know that recently I had a client who said, oh, well, I really don't want to say what I feel because I don't want to hurt the person. So we had a long conversation about that, and maybe that will come up at another time. But right now we're talking about how we can feel overwhelmed, out in the cold, especially money-wise, because Pentacles can represent money, economics, the good life. And right now, a lot of people are in strain of how to create that because jobs are not happening or else money's not flowing. And so you feel like you're out in the cold and you can't do anything. And so it's really, really difficult. So again, how do we get to that quote unquote correct mindset? The next symbol that was given was this one. Hang on, I got to get that so the glare isn't on it. That one seems to be glary. There we go. Little tilt. Justice symbol, because you have to make a choice. Every journey is an internal journey, even though you may not be aware of it. Here, this is number 11. Now, actually, there's another symbol that's at number 2, because 11 is the higher power of the 2, which talks about decision. And this is often, to me, more about the commitment to the decision. But it's still, when I put it down, I went, oh, yeah, they have to make a decision. Because I was beginning to see the story that was being told to me. You have to make a choice. You have to choose to get up out of the bed. Even though it may not look good out there right then, you've got to choose to carry on. I'm not saying like the 2 people in this where they feel pretty beaten, like they're not going to be. You have to know what you want. And recognize that thought is important. And the emotion that you put behind the thought is really, really important. So when you make that decision, see that background here? You can't see anything really behind what's going on because you don't know. But you've got to trust. One of the things I work a lot with people is having faith and trust. If you do not have faith and trust, then you don't usually go forward, or you don't make changes, or you're not willing to risk being vulnerable. I recently said that to a client about being vulnerable, and she said, oh, I don't like being vulnerable. I went, no, well, we need to learn how to be vulnerable. We need to learn how to move forward and how to go. But when we make a decision, a choice to change the circumstances, even if it's how we feel, right now, it's really about how are we feeling about all that's what's going on and how the life is changing. This is healing. We need to heal ourselves. We need to heal our world. And that's what is described here, is by using that harmony. This is the 2 of Cups. It's very much about male and female energy internally, because we have that inside of us. We're not just female gender or male gender. We are a male and a female, masculine and feminine within. And as we heal, as we choose to have ourselves become, and you might say in a more, go back to my correct correct thinking, correct way of being, the last symbol that came down to complete the journey is the world, which is completion. The world has everything together. And if you know of the whole story that goes on within the higher arcana journey, you realize there's so many representations of the symbology that comes before. But here you now have attained, you have been successful. So let's take a look at this little journey that we're going to go on when we get a piece of news. Something unexpected happens in our lives that may knock us for what as the saying goes, for a 6, or it may just add to all the other stuff that we have going on. And it's like, we just feel like we want to stay in bed forever. We don't want to deal with any of this. And so we do get depressed. And even when we get depressed, we feel ostracized from everything, all the good stuff. It's not available to us. It's like we can't see. We can't see how life could change. We can't see how things would turn around. I think every person that's probably over 50 has experienced at some point in time in their life these feelings. And what did we do? We made that choice to move on. We made the choice to put that aside. We made the choice to go inside and learn about who we are and how we respond. We learned to go on that inner journey. And in going on that inner journey, we created inner healing. As you create inner healing, you'll create external healing, because that is the way it works, especially if you add learning with it, not just going inside and looking at all your quote unquote stuff. But as you move ahead, as you go forward, as you come into a reality, in time, I'm not saying it would be the next day, but in time, you come to balance and attainment. Because those last two, well, actually the last 3 symbols have a lot to do with balance, in particular the last 2. How are we balanced inside? How are we balanced in our life in relation to the world outside? How does that all come together to bring us in as the world talks about attainment of joy, of happiness, of life, of being able to take those unexpected experiences and be able to work with them. So I hope you've enjoyed my story. I know I'm a little shorter on time than usual, but that's okay too. I just really want to thank you once more for all the subscribers that are there, and for those that want to press the subscribe button. I appreciate that. For your comments, I really endeavor to answer those when they come in. I also want to thank you for any shares and likes that you do. It all contributes to me to be able to sit here both on a Wednesday morning and on a Sunday morning for a Sunday thought, to be able to share some of the awareness and knowledge that I've gained over the years, and to be able to be, as my eye looks down on the world, to be able to show that there is other ways. There are other ways of looking at things. There's other ways of understanding. So until next week, I trust you'll have a very, very good week, and that you will contemplate on creating your world to work for you. And so it is. Nice.